Yeah.
Okay. That sound all right?
Yeah, you sound fine. Things read funny, but we'll
Read
work it
funny.
out. Yeah, just start reading from the top.
What do you mean read funny?
Hey there, Marvel fans. All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast. Meet your match on Mutant Minkle. Could the Starship Enterprise beat the Millennium Falcon? There you go.
Oh, why is all this down here?
I don't know, but we'll work it out.
Well, that's the way it is in the notes, but it shouldn't have been.
I don't. It's fine, dude. We'll work it out.
I can fix it.
No, dude, just roll with it.
All right. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Meet your match on Mutant Mingle.
Could the Starship Enterprise beat the Millennium Falcon?
Anyone here not heard Spider-Man's origin story a bunch of times?
All this and more on this week's episode. All
right. Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Meet your match on Mutant Mingle.
Could the Starship Enterprise beat the Millennium Falcon?
Anyone here not heard Spider-Man's origin story a bunch of times?
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Month Behind podcast.
Three, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast, week of 11/12/18. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this week we are David Arquette and Nick Gage. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Am I being stabbed to death by a guy in a weird mask in a movie?
No, you're being cut open with fluorescent light bulbs.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie.
No, it's at 48. For those who don't know, David Arquette did the wrestling movie Ready to Rumble, I think it was called, 20 years ago. And WCW, in one of their last days, stuck the title belt on him for like 2 weeks, okay? The World Heavyweight Belt, right?
Yeah.
So now, 20 years later, at age 48, David Arquette decides he wants to really be a professional wrestler. And for those who don't know, there are 2 ways to become a professional wrestler. You can really know how to wrestle and then go to something like the WWE wrestling school or one of the other many wrestling schools that are around, or you can just go in the indie circuit and get the crap beat out of you until you learn how to wrestle. David Arquette decided to do the latter. And Friday night, he got in a Texas death match with a guy named Nick Gage. And there was lots of blood and gore, lots of chairs. But at one point, he busted a fluorescent light bulb over David Arquette's neck and head and apparently cut his neck. David Arquette thinks his jugular vein's been cut and he's bleeding out, so he freaks out. There's more fluorescent light bulbs. Didn't David Arquette no-sold the ending? It was a disaster. I'm like, dude, man, you're 48. Why are you doing stuff a 16-year-old should be doing and letting a guy stick the edge of a fluorescent broken light bulb in your head?
Yeah, I mean, you're a wrestling fan. I'm not so much. I saw a couple highlights on Twitter when you told me about it. It looked like it was a cool match to watch. I'll be honest.
It was. But if you're not trained to do that sort of thing and you haven't done it before, dude.
Yeah, you're putting your body through hell.
Absolutely. I mean, because people think wrestling is entirely fake, and it's not. I mean, usually the blood is real. Okay, because you get a little nick in your forehead, a little nick, I should say, in your forehead, and it bleeds a lot.
Yeah.
You know? So these guys just learn to just barely cut themselves in the forehead, then there's blood everywhere, then it looks real. Okay.
Right. Yeah. The thing about wrestling is it's not fake, it's scripted.
It's scripted.
The hits these guys take are real. They put their bodies through some serious stuff.
Yeah.
And especially on this indie circuit.
Dude, on the indie circuit, there's a somewhere, if I could find a video, I'll send it to you. I forget the guy's name, but they decided to get stupid and climb about 25 feet up on top of the ring, not the ring, the lighting, and they had a stack of tables that was like 20 feet high, and then they were going to dive through the tables. Okay, well, they get up there. New Jack, what's that guy's name? It's something New Jack. Anyway, the guy he's working with gets up there and it doesn't want to go. Okay, he's like, dude, I'm scared of heights. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And New Jack was like, well, too late, sorry. And, off they go through the tables. The guy tried to press charges against him.
Mm.
And that's not the only time there was, people have tried to press charges. It's anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that you used to see this stuff in the WWE and you don't anymore.
Yeah.
Eventually Vince was just like, people were getting hurt so bad that in order to keep a roster, he had to stop doing some of this stuff.
Yeah.
You might see them pull some stuff out if they do a hardcore match, but that's rare.
I ever tell you about Johnny wrestling?
No.
He probably loves wrestling more than I do.
Oh,
so
Lord.
He's like 6'2" or 6'3", 52-inch shoulders, played football in high school.
Yeah, he's a big dude. I've seen him.
He's a big dude. So he was like 19 or 20 and decided he wanted to be a pro wrestler. And yes, this is when he was already working in a church. So he goes to school for like 5 or 6 weeks, and learns how to take the bumps and everything. And he gets in the ring with Wayne Latham, who was known as Moondog Spot. And before they go in, he's like, look, I'm going to hit you with a trash can lid. Okay. Don't put your arms up to block it because that looks bad and it won't hurt too bad. Johnny says, okay. They get in the ring. He smacks him with the trash can lid. Johnny goes out cold with a concussion. And that was his first and last match. It was like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah.
Done, man.
Nope, no. But apparently David Arquette didn't understand. And I don't know how, because after talking to a friend of mine, seems like he should, but he didn't understand the dues these guys pay in the early years to be able to do stuff like this.
Dude, I don't know how you don't, and I don't know how I don't know, man.
Because I was talking to a buddy of mine at work last night who's a big wrestling fan, and apparently David Arquette's like in the scene. Like David Arquette's a longtime wrestling fan. So he should know this. And maybe he did and just decided to do it anyway, just for fun. But that didn't look like fun. I
mean, you hear guys like Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles and other people talk about it, and they spent a decade at bingo halls and bars and VFW centers, wrestling in front of 50 people for a meal and gas money, just to learn their craft.
Yeah.
And to think that, David Arquette's going to take any shortcuts to that, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm not sure that's really what he is doing. I think he just wanted to get in the ring again.
I guess, man.
Yeah. But now we had an event at one of the breweries here last night.
Yeah.
There's dudes wrestling in a parking lot in 30-degree weather.
About 6 months ago, and you can find this online. I don't know what Dana White was promoting. He was promoting something, but it's Dana White and one of the guys that works for him and Jerry Lawler and somebody else wrestling down on Bill Street. I mean, they set up a ring, blocked out Bill Street, went out there and wrestled for a few minutes. I'm sure there was other stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, that was the highlight.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight. If you go Google Dana White wrestling on YouTube, you'll find it.
I'd like to just see Dana White wrestle.
Apparently, he was quite the boxer back in his day.
I could believe that, given that he got into the UFC and he's kind of been in that Vegas scene for a long time.
Yeah, I think he was a boxer, and then he began managing boxers, and then he began managing Tito Ortiz, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, he went to, he got ownership of partial ownership of the UFC with those brothers whose name I just forgot.
Zuffa brothers.
Thank you. Who sold out a couple years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to email us about your wrestling stories, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can't find any wrestling stories on the website, but you can find stories about comic books at www.6monthsbehind.com.
And we did post a new episode of What's Next, all about Marvel events. So check that out. It should be in the podcast feed.
It should.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good episode, too.
Yeah, I thought so. It was a real good episode.
If we do say so ourselves.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the sound of me patting myself on the back.
There you go.
So we're going to get into the comic books here, but just to let you guys know, we do discuss spoilers. So if you have not read all the comic books this week, or you don't want spoilers, because we are 6 months behind, so sometimes we talk about stuff that's happening later or currently or whatever your timeline is. So if you don't want to be spoiled, pause here, read all the comic books, come back later. We will still be here.
Yes, we will.
We have no Infinity books and no Avengers books this week.
Yes, the time of an Avengers book every single week is over. Eventually, that new Avengers book starts shipping bi-weekly. I don't know when that is, but it will be soon.
Yeah, we're starting with X-Men this week. X-Men Blue 27. So Magneto and Polaris go out for dinner one evening. Daddy-daughter date or something like that. There in Madripoor, and Polaris knows her father well enough to know this isn't just him being nice. This is him buttering her up to propose something, a plan of some kind.
Sure.
Yeah, he wants her, because of their past, to try to flip Havoc back into a good guy. Polaris doesn't feel the need to do that and doesn't think she can, but she obviously knows if she's having this conversation, the opportunity will arise shortly. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, the X-Men are fighting the evil versions of the X-Men. It's like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but the ones who were powered up by the Mother Vine thing. Meanwhile, in deep space, Beast has gotten the Blackbird back online and Danger's back online. Scott's still moping about Jean being dead, who I don't think is actually dead. Meanwhile, Magneto gets attacked by one of the Mother Vine people. Apparently Armor is is under their control now. That kind of bums me out because I really like her. And then he in order to escape the assault, he sends himself through time. He activates this time platform and jumps somewhere we don't know. Meanwhile, Polaris and her X-Men are recovering from the fight. They're interrogating a couple of the evil Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to figure out what the plan is. And then we get a scene with all the bad guys, Emma Frost, Miss Sinister, and so on, where Emma's objecting to the idea of mutants being under mental control of them. When the X-Men show up and battle breaks out, and now Polaris has her opportunity to flip Havoc, but we'll see how that goes in the next issue. It's pretty good. It was all right.
Yeah, it's not bad. They're doing stuff with Havoc here that they're leading up to something. They're really doing stuff with Emma Frost.
Yeah.
And for the last couple of years, really since the death of Scott Summers, you've lost track of if Emma Frost is a hero or a villain. And there's a limited series coming out called X-Men Black in, I don't know, a few weeks. No, a few months. I'm sorry, a few months. Sometimes I get this time thing with us sometimes confuses me because I bought it on a newsstand like a month ago. So that means it'll be out in about 5 months.
Right. Yeah.
Left Behind. And they reboot the origin of some of the X-Men villains. Magneto, Juggernaut. They really hyped up Juggernaut's powers. It was really cool. And Emma Frost. And I won't tell you what Emma Frost does, but they really retool who she is, and it's cool, man. It's really cool. It springs out of this whole Mother Vine thing.
Okay, cool.
So, Yeah,
I figured
good, man.
They wouldn't build up the Mother Vine thing so much if they didn't intend to do something with it.
Which they are.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah. Next, we have The Hunt for Wolverine, the Adamantium Agenda. And let me say, this isn't a bad book. It's just, it's a money grab. And by the time you get to the end, you're going to see it devolves into something else entirely that has nothing to do with Wolverine.
Yeah, I was enjoying the book up until that point, but all of a sudden it becomes a different, like it takes on a different subject, and it's like, is this comic book really about Wolverine? I don't feel like it is.
No, because what they do is they back up a few years so that you have the new Avengers, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones trying to defuse a bomb in New York, and they all decide, okay, Wolverine will do it because, he'll just relive again. This is where we get the infamous line where Spider-Man wants to tell his origin again.
Yeah, he wants to tell the whole group the origin, and everybody's like, we've all heard it.
Except the SHIELD agent in the back who raises her hand, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're convinced Wolverine's the one that should do it. Everything's blowed up. Blowed up, that's a NASCAR term. We had a new NASCAR champion today, and no one cares.
Oh, Lord, no.
Yeah. So, it blows up a couple of city blocks. They have to dig around, find Wolverine's body, and they're all appreciative of it. So we skip to the future, and
hang on. There's something that happens that Wolverine sees as that bomb is about to explode. He discerns some kind of information. We don't know what it is, but he is made aware of who put the bomb there, maybe, or he learns something just before he's blown to smithereens.
Okay. So then we cut to the Iron Man Kitty Pryde scene where, Iron Man feels like he owes him. He gets Spider-Man and Power Man and Jessica Jones, and turns out somebody is selling something on the black market that they think happens to be Logan's DNA. So they go to the auction. There's all kinds of stories and stupid masking crap at the auction. And at this point, it's devolving into a different story. Not anything to do with Wolverine. Turns out what they're auctioning is the DNA of Danny Cage, Luke and Jessica's daughter.
Right. I was all into it up until that last bit, and I was like, okay, now this is a comic book about that, and it's not about Wolverine.
Absolutely.
You've taken a what they thought was a thread for Wolverine that they could have tracked him down and turned it into a plot thread to explore something else. And that is called exploitation.
Absolutely.
You put Wolverine on the cover, you call it Hunt for Wolverine, and you turn it into a different thing.
Yep.
Those are the kind of practices that turn people off of comic books.
Yeah. Because I guarantee if I went back and looked at the sales figures, number 1 got a huge number, and 2 through 4 sucked. It didn't sell anything.
And another thing is, you could have tweaked this storyline a bit and had this still tie into the Wolverine thing, but have told this in Daredevil, and it would have been perfectly fine. Sure. Daredevil's already on the trail of Wolverine. We've seen that. He could have gotten the lead about the DNA on the black market. That would make sense for Daredevil.
Right.
So Daredevil, Luke Cage, and who's the Inhuman Duty teamed up with?
The detective, Frank McGee.
Yeah, Frank McGee. Yeah. The 3 of them, go stake out a black market deal, and all of a sudden they're auctioning off the Danny Cage's DNA. Well, that's a neat story to be told in a book that isn't explicitly a Wolverine title.
Right.
I don't know. That irritates
I don't either.
It irritates me.
And I guarantee nobody bought issues 2 through 4 because they read number 1, said, oh, this isn't about Wolverine, and didn't buy the rest of it.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah. That's what I would have done if I, paid $3.99 for it on stamp.
I was going to say, what was the cover price for this?
I have no idea.
I guarantee you it was more than $3.99. It was at least $4.99.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're just a sidetrack for a minute, since we are in the X-Men section of our comic books. They're relaunching Uncanny X-Men, which I think hit the stands Wednesday, or does hit the stands this Wednesday.
I sent you a text about it. You never responded. I think you were drinking shots in tribute to Stan Lee.
No, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. We did do a shot to Stan Lee, but it was a single shot of whiskey, and then we played Dungeons and Dragons.
So Avengers 700 came out. That was $6.99. Uncanny X-Men #1 was there. No, it was $5.99, $6. And Uncanny #1 was there for $7.99, $8.
Yeah, $8.
And I was like, nope, not happening. Not for a relaunch when you're running about 50 issues to get a different writer, kill it, and start over again with another #1.
After tax, that's $15 for 2 comic books.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a reason we are doing this podcast and talking about and reading comic books on Marvel Unlimited.
That is literally 50% more than we pay for a monthly unlimited fee. If you pay $9.99 a month, $10 a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't, again, we can go on a rant. We've talked about this ad nauseum in previous shows, but it's one of the great barriers of entry to selling comic books. In a time when comic books need to be more competitive than ever, they're as least competitive as they could possibly be.
We've talked about this before, but I want to touch on it again.
Yeah.
I was looking at the sales, I think for last month. Let's see, this is probably for September. I think I was looking at September sales. And some of the timely comics were on the top, in the top 25, certainly in the top 50. There was a couple of issues in the top 50. Now, the timely comics line is when Marvel takes an issue, like they did a What If month. So every week they put out 2 reprints of What If books, and they print them for $1. One.
Yeah.
Now, you still got to pay the author and the artist. And I understand you don't have all the production costs you do to get a new comic on the stand. I get that. But, dude, if you can print that book for $1 and make any money at all, why are you selling an Uncanny book? I don't care if it is 36 pages. Why are you selling an Uncanny book for $8?
And I understand it's Uncanny #1 and you're relaunching it, so I would understand a higher cover price, not literally double the cover price.
No, I just literally did not. Did they not learn anything from the comic crash of the 90s, which, by the way, you can find in the What's Next section of our podcast.
Yeah, where we discuss it was like a 3-part series, the boom, the bust, and the new boom, and probably another bust.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude. Apparently not. Apparently they didn't.
Apparently not, man.
But at the same time, if you go on eBay, you can find that same issue of Uncanny X-Men for double or triple the cover price. So
for the love of Pete, why, man?
I don't know. Also, the default, some of the variant covers for that Uncanny X-Men are really nice. The default cover sucks.
Yes, it does. It is not great.
It's not that the art is bad. It's that it's a collection of some of the female X-Men, but all of them are wearing different costumes, or not even just in their regular clothes and not in costume at all. And it doesn't give any indication that these people are on a team together.
No.
Who approved that?
Dude.
Like, I understand if you want them to have a unique look, then you tailor their costumes to the character, but you have them be uniform in a certain way, like the X-Men's costumes have always been, to denote that these people are on an X-Men team, especially when you're launching a #1. It just makes sense.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's just bad business. Did you have a question about Uncanny before we both went on a rant?
No.
Okay.
I'll read it eventually.
You were just queuing up a rant. Okay, good.
Yeah, I was just ranting. Anyway, We're going to talk about Old Man Logan #39, which, by the way, has a great cover. It was about exactly what the cover says it's about, which is Old Man Logan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this Mike Deodato Jr. cover is legit. It's really good. So after throwing down with Kingpin and Bullseye a little bit, Logan goes back to the X Mansion, which he thought he would never return to, but his healing factor is not working and he needs answers, and the doctors there are the only ones who can help him. So he walks in, is immediately greeted by Shark Girl and Glob and some of the other minor X-Men who have become a little more prominent in the last few years.
I almost tuned out of this book at this point, but I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, there's an A and B story here that one involves Logan, the other involves the teenagers. And anyway, they're happy to see Logan, but Logan's just kind of like, yeah, point me in the direction of the doctors. I don't have time for your teenage stuff. Anyway, Glob's got a date. The reason I'm telling you that is it's relevant later. He goes and meets the doctor. I forget who this is.
It's Dr. Reyes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Dr. Reyes. That's right. So they're in the infirmary. She's doing some tests, telling him she's, hey, my eye doesn't work at all. It's not healing at all. My healing factor is way slow. After doing some tests, she basically tells him, look, because you got injected with that, what was it? The
Regenix.
Regenix. That's probably slowing your healing factor down. But at the same time, you're just older and it was already slowing down anyway. So the addition of the Regenix with your already slowing healing factor has pretty much stopped it in its tracks. She's going to run some more tests, see if there's something they can do, but this may be the new normal for him.
Yeah.
Wolverine with no healing factor. Elderly Logan with no healing factor. So back to the B story. Glob goes to his date. Turns out the girl that he was supposed to meet is legit, but it was all a setup for the Purifiers, who have tied her up and now have Glob under their control. And they're strapping bombs to him and they're going to blow up the X-Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like the Purifiers.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I don't like the Purifiers.
I don't either.
I mean, as a villain, they're cool, but the reason I like them is because they just offend me so greatly.
Right. Next, we have the New Mutants, Dead Souls #3. Now, I remember reading issue #1 of this book, and I think I kind of took a dump on it because I didn't think it was great. I did. Okay, thank you. So I read issue 3.
I enjoyed it greatly because I like the New Mutants.
Boom Boom, Strong Guy, Wolfsbane, and of course Magic.
Yeah.
And this was so good. I went back into, because I didn't read issue 2. I mean, issue 1 was, I thought was so bad, I didn't even read issue 2. And this issue was so good and so funny that I went back and read the first 2 issues again. And the guy that's writing it is Matthew Rosenberg, who I'm not familiar with. Maybe you know something else he's written.
Dude, we read his stuff all the time.
What's he written?
What hasn't he written? He was writing Old Man Logan for a minute, I believe. If you keep talking about it, I'll tell you everything he's written.
Okay, you look. So it starts with Prodigy on an airplane, and everybody's going to kill Prodigy. Then we cut to the New Mutants who are finding the Nameless Ones. Is that those guys?
I didn't read this because the app wouldn't let me.
Boom Boom's drunk. They're fighting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Nameless Ones. Guido and Richter are arguing about whether or not the Enterprise would destroy the Falcon in a 1-on-1 fight, the Millennium Falcon. Boom Boom answers her phone in the middle of the fight. She tries to teleport him to the plane. Magic tries to teleport him to the plane that Prodigy's on, except she misses the plane and they wind up on the wing. Finally, she gets him inside, and then everyone starts turning on them. And there are just great lines here. I mean, it's really funny. Just from Boom Boom being drunk and they're all fighting with each other. And what Magic eventually discovers is the cockpit is being protected both by Magic and Asgardian Norse ruins. So at that point, she realizes somebody's out to get them. that's driven the people insane and driven them insane. And she finally gets her way into the cabin where there's some demon there. And that's one of the reasons I backed up, was because I didn't know who the demon was.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fighting. It's Tran who's the demon, but there's another demon that's coming for him. And I don't know. It was really good. It really was.
I would love to read it. Anyway, so Matthew Rosenberg, just for Marvel, wrote The Punisher, was writing The Punisher up until recently. He may still be writing it. He was writing Secret Warriors during Secret Empire, The New Mutants, of course, Hawkeye and Winter Soldier. He wrote Phoenix Resurrection. He was writing, let's see, Black Canary for DC.
I didn't know he wrote Phoenix Resurrection. Okay, now I know who he is.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, he's done a ton of, he was writing Venom for a little while. Edge of Venomverse was him. Yeah, dude, we've been reading a ton of his stuff.
Okay, my apologies. I didn't remember him.
And apparently he's writing the Astonishing X-Men annual that's about to come out.
Okay.
And I think he's writing Uncanny X-Men.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's Matthew Rosenberg for. I knew we had been reading his stuff. I knew his name.
Yeah, dude, I don't pay attention to writers and artists as a rule.
As a rule?
Yeah. Really? I just read the book. And then if it really gets my attention, I go back and say, okay, who's writing this?
See, I'll look at a book and go, that's a comic book I don't want to read. And then I'll look and see who wrote it. Like this Domino comic, I was like, eh. And then I saw Gail Simone was writing it, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm totally into this.
Without even reading the book yet.
Yeah, because it's Gail Simone.
I do that with artists. I don't necessarily, I guess I do it with writers. Hickman's like that.
Hickman, Bendis, you have your favorites.
Jason Aaron, yeah. I mean, those guys, yeah. So I guess I do, yeah.
Okay. So Domino number 2, I really enjoyed the first issue of this. Wasn't sure how I felt about a Domino solo comic, but again, it was Gail Simone, so I thought, it can't be awful. And as we saw in the last issue, Topaz shows up with some old dude. Previously in the issue, Domino was told that some lady named Topaz was after her. Hurls her out a window. Domino thinks this is where her luck runs out. Nah, turns out not to be the case. Spider-Man swings by. How lucky of her. And is able to rescue her. All the people at this party that were there for Domino come to Topaz, and they're like, hey, you just threw a friend out the window, so you can either leave or we can beat the crap out of you. Anyway, Domino gets rescued by Spider-Man. She's kind of mopey for some reason. That's very unlike her, and I don't really understand it. Anyway, her friends come back and cheer her up. Also, Deadpool seems to have a soft spot for Domino, I guess.
Yeah, I think at some point they hooked up.
Okay. Because he seems really...
Domino's like the Black Widow, man. She's hooked up with a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, he seemed really worried about her. The next day, she goes jogging in the park with Amadeus Cho, who, despite being the Hulk, can't run more than like 2 blocks without getting winded. I don't know how that's a thing, but it is. They get mugged in the park, and of course Domino handles them easily. Dude pulls out a machete. She takes the machete and cut the dude's carotid artery, and then cuts his buddy's hand off or whatever. And
because if I'm going to commit a crime, a machete is the weapon I use.
Right? Like, who just carries around a machete?
Yeah.
Anyway, her and Diamondback and Outlaw, her 2 friends, get a gig. There's a riverboat on the Mississippi River that is, of course, a casino, and they're hired to essentially run protection and discourage some people who may try to rob the casino. Her and the Hulk throw down with some guys. She saves the day a couple times and saves some people. Then Topaz shows up, and there's a big explosion, and well, we'll find out what happens next issue. It was pretty good. It was all right.
Good. Next, we have Exiles number 3. this book opens as each issue does with just forget the Unseen. I almost forgot his name. Then we cut to the world that they were thrown into last time when the golly, what's that thing that she wears? Anyway, it broke and threw into a world where dinosaurs are talking and wearing silly costumes, and they wind up fighting them. Then they go to another world because the Time Eater finds that one. They go to another world where apparently Namor is stuck in the 60s age of Aquarius. Peace, love, sex, drugs, and orgies. Nick Fury makes about a 3-panel cameo, and tells him, okay, he's got it under control. I got it under control. then they get away from hippie Namor after an appearance by Morph.
Morph.
And they wind up in a 1940s world where I just noticed something I missed last time. I don't understand it.
What was it?
It's on page 20, or on page 13. And Kamala Khan's ear is gigantic. It's like bigger than her head.
Yeah, she can change her size. That's her powers.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot.
So she makes it bigger so she can hear things. It's not always like that, but she made it bigger.
It looks stupid
so she can hear better. Yeah, no, her power is ridiculous, but it's also effective.
Yeah, but it looks stupid. Okay, anyway, so then Becky and the Howling Commandos show up.
And then Howling Commandos. Okay.
Yes, Becky and the Howling Commandos, followed by Captain America, Sharon Carter. And pretty soon Becky is hitting on Valkyrie, and then they go on a mission with the Becky and the Howling Commandos and stop the Red Skull, except something went wrong because the atomic bomb that he's got is still going off. And yeah, there you go. And Becky and Valkyrie are having a real good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was another one that I wanted to read and couldn't because Marvel Unlimited said no.
Well, okay.
I don't know
why. Marvel Unlimited got issues, don't you?
Every now and again, there's a comic book that it will not let me open.
I wonder why.
I don't know.
I was trying to watch Survivor Series tonight, and I had to log out of my WWE app and then go back in again. I don't know, man. These apps act strange sometimes.
You needed a timeout?
I need to pee bad.
Okay, go.
I'll be right back. Sorry, brother. Amanda says I have the bladder of a 6-year-old.
You do.
Okay, fine.
Okay. I'll count us in and start with Spider-Man.
Yep. Who's got the first Spider-Man book?
I do.
You do. Got it.
There's 3 of them. All right. 3, 2, 1. Moving on to Spider-Man, we have Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. If you remember in the last couple issues, some bad stuff happened. Dr. Doom sent Peter Parker J. Jonah Jameson and was it Gwen Stacy?
I think so.
Or Mary Jane. Oh, well, anyway, no, it was his sister. It was his sister. They sent the three of them into the past in order to do whatever they needed to do to prevent this from happening. The caveat was that they wouldn't actually be able to directly influence the future. So they couldn't like go back in time and just punch Dr. Octavius in the mouth and throw him in prison because that wouldn't affect the outcome. Well, turns out that may not have been exactly true, because as they come back to the present in this very first page of this issue, things are not as they should be. They emerge in an alleyway, they walk out, and they realize there's a political banner for Harry Osborn, who's apparently the president of the United States now. And there's these Octobots patrolling the streets, keeping an eye on everything. In fact, they get into a little bit of trouble that way. So they've got to figure out what happened and why things are different. They find a big building with the word Parker on it, so they assume that's Parker Industries or something similar. They go there, they find Peter Parker, the younger Peter Parker they were interacting with in the previous issues. That's this Peter Parker. They go there. Apparently, he's been leading a tech company. What we find out is after Norman Osborn went crazy early and found out his identity, he quit being Spider-Man and never became Spider-Man again. Instead, he started Parker Industries and created a tech company. Gwen Stacy also never died, but Norman Osborn, through manipulation of the media, was able to essentially become, while he installed Harry as the president, the one who's really pulling the strings is Norman Osborn, because he's also got Otto Octavius as the chief of police of New York. Gwen Stacy is been giving the resistance technology from Parker Industries. As it turns out, there's not a whole lot of, the resistance is just what's left of the superheroes. Reed Richards is gone. Hank Pym's dead. Dr. Doom's in prison. Anyway, current Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is really upset with this Peter Parker because he didn't continue to be Spider-Man. And the reason he didn't is because he knew that he was going to lose loved ones, so he decided not to. Anyway, Gwen Stacy takes them to the base of the resistance, which is it's not the Sanctum Sanctorum, but it's Doctor Strange's lair. Doctor Strange is there along with Captain America, looking very bearded and gruff. Riri Williams is also there, and they're pretty much all that's left. So they're talking and trying to figure out what they need to do. They decide to break into Osborn's Supermax prison to enlist the help of Dr. Doom. So, yeah, it was an interesting issue. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's one I didn't read. I was short on time this week.
Yeah. Go back and read it. It was really good. It was to me. It had all the things that I enjoy, which is an alternate timeline where things have gone horribly wrong and the heroes have to put it back together. That story always gets me. By the way, this was written by Chip Zdarsky, who it was announced this week is taking over Daredevil after Charles Soule.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Charles Soule is going to kill him and then make Chip Zdarsky figure out what to do with him. We talked about that last week. Did we talk about it last week, or did we talk about it in
it was last week.
Or in the What's Next? Is it last week?
It was last week, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Next, we have Spider-Man and Deadpool number 32. And I like Robbie Thompson. He's written some stuff that I've enjoyed. But tell you what, I'll explain the vehicle crash that is Those are not the words I wanted to use. That is this issue, and then I'll dissect it. So it opens with Peter Parker in a hospital. Apparently, he was nearly dead, and Deadpool saved him by giving him his blood. Johnny Storm's there, Deadpool's there, the Thing's there. Except I don't remember any of this happening in the last issue. So we see that, but then we cut to what's been happening in previous issues, which is Old Man Spider-Man and Old Man Deadpool, Old Man Spider-Man in the wheelchair fighting all the Deadpool LMDs. And they're fighting the LMDs. You got lots of witty banner, except turns out there's like literally 1 billion of the LMDs. So they're kind of outnumbered. So they run to the Fantastic Four. And what you see is a rock, and it's not the Thing. It's the son of the Thing. I forget who it is. Anyway, he's like the Giant Man, except he's the Thing. And it's his kid, Reed Grimm. There you go. It's Reed Grimm. And then he calls in the rest of the Fantastic Four, and they start stomping on, which is, I don't know. Somebody's possessed by the symbiote. Valeria Richards, who's very old, and a demonic Daredevil. So while they're trying to make the getaway, Spider-Man winds up being stabbed by one of the LMDs. Deadpool loses his mind. They go back to the Fantastic Four headquarters where they're trying to save Spider-Man again and again by transfusing him with Deadpool's blood. Spider-Man, Peter Parker forgives Deadpool, but they don't care, and I don't even understand. At the end, Deadpool runs to get in the time machine to apparently go back to where this story began, which is with them fighting because the current Deadpool fades out and the old Deadpool comes in. I don't know.
Okay.
Because what they've been like doing one story with with Deadpool and the LMDs with that whole shield stuff. Okay. Where, Deadpool, Wade's got the technology and, he's buying up all the shield technology. Then every now and then they would do an issue of Old Man Spider-Man and Old Man Deadpool. And now they're somehow combining the two. And I'm sure if you sat down and read this in graphic novel form, it would be entertaining. But just getting an issue every 2 weeks and trying to keep up with what they're friggin' doing, dude, I don't know, man.
It almost sounds like that after 32 issues, they've run out of ideas and things are getting kind of sparse, and maybe the writing team has gotten a little lazy, but it's selling like crazy, so Marvel keeps publishing it.
I don't know, man. I mean, these are good characters. I really think if I just sat down about 10 or 12 issues ago and just started reading this storyline, it would probably make sense and I would enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, but the serialized every 2 weeks, it's hard to keep together in your head.
It is ridiculously hard to keep together in my head.
This is another reason that I think we should move to a long form format of comic books instead of weekly issues, but because the writers haven't written for the weekly issue in 15 years or more.
Right.
20 years, probably. They're writing for the trade. They're writing 5 and 6 issue story arcs. So why are we not publishing them in 5 issue, 6 issue trade paperbacks? That's what they do in Japan.
Yeah.
They finish a story arc, they publish it. Yeah. It also makes the product last longer on the shelf in a comic book store. But, what do we know? Anyway, what I do know is Venom #1 was really good. You have Venom #1, new writer Donny Cates, new artist Ryan Stegman, who also did the cover here. Awesome looking cover. Now, if you take your attention to the top left corner of the cover, there is the Marvel logo and, of course, the number. It says #1, and in smaller letters under #1, it says Legacy number 166. What an excellent format.
That's a CB Cebulski idea.
Yeah, maybe he had a good idea.
Yes. We discussed last week or the week before that a lot of what you're getting now from Marvel is the changes that he's making, and I really think he's going in a positive direction.
I think so too, because you're starting a new volume of Venom here, new writer, new creative team, kind of relaunching the character a little bit. So it makes sense to do a new number 1. But if you just put Legacy number 166, that solves the problem. You know what your old numbering is, and it doesn't confuse the old guys who have been around forever and are like, what order do I read this in? But it's accessible to new readers too. I mean, how long did it take to figure this out?
Yepper. Too long. DC figured it out 20 years ago.
Yeah, dude, this is not hard.
I mean, if you go back to the Death of Superman, DC was publishing a Superman book every week. And they numbered the issues by the issue that came out that year. So you had 1 through 212, I think, if I don't know, I did the math quick, 208 maybe. And so you would have that number there, and then below it you would have Action Comics number 800.
Yeah.
You know, it's not rocket science. DC figured it out 20 years ago.
Dude, anyway. So we start with Eddie Brock having a dream, and the dream is classic Beowulf. Now, if you're not familiar with the Beowulf story, it won't make any sense. But there's a portion of Beowulf where the monster's trying to get into the mead hall, and the soldiers are holding him back. But instead of the wolf, the monster from Beowulf, it's the Venom symbiote. This is obviously foreshadowing. Eddie wakes up. He's all confused. The symbiote's all confused. And we find out through his kind of inner monologue that something's wrong with the symbiote. The symbiote isn't acting the way it should be. It's almost like it's malfunctioning. Anyway, he goes out on patrol, busts up a string of bad guys who are raiding Norman Osborn's stash of weapons, but he doesn't do it by just kicking in the door and kicking their butts. No, he doesn't trust his symbiote right now to be able to do what it needs to do. So what does he do? Tracks them down, takes some photos, calls the police. Police show up. It works out. But what happens is one of them's getting away, so he does jump in his symbiote Venom form to stop him. When a police officer finds him and starts firing, and the symbiote transforms and begins speaking an alien language and kind of takes over Eddie Brock, and he ends up hurting some police officers, and it's real bad. Anyway, he gets captured by a dude in the midst of this confrontation. Turns out this guy knows a lot about symbiotes. Turns out, back in what looks like Vietnam, the US government was aware of these symbiotes and was using them in the legacy program to create super soldiers. Is it the legacy program? That's the legacy virus. That's the X-Men thing.
It's the file. Anyway, it'll come to me. Anyway,
not important. The program that made Captain America.
Wasn't the Infinity Formula? That's what Nick Fury took.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, turns out they were using symbiotes to do the same thing, to empower their soldiers. This guy was part of a troop who had their symbiotes. So he knows a lot about them. He can tell Eddie Brock, who's, by the way, has had this symbiote for a long time, things about this symbiote that he never knew. So what this guy wants is essentially revenge on the government, who is now S.H.I.E.L.D. and then now become defunct, because what happened is they experimented on these symbiotes and it drove his buddies crazy, and they just put him on ice. So he feels that's an injustice. So he's enlisting Eddie Brock, a dude he knows with a symbiote, to take his revenge. turns out they're going to be transporting some symbiotes in an underground tunnel now that S.H.I.E.L.D's defunct, so they're just putting everything away. Eddie stops the truck, and all the symbiotes that are in the truck are transformed in the way that we saw earlier, and they're speaking some weird alien language. And they manage to overwhelm Eddie, and there's a big fight. They manage to get away, but Eddie asks the symbiote, "What's happening?" So, it happened with you. These symbiotes something's affected them. What is happening here? What language were they speaking? And the symbiote tells him they were saying something over and over, and that is, God is coming. No idea what that means, but there's enough foreshadowing and ominous stuff going on that I'm intrigued.
That sounds good.
It was good. Did you not read it?
I did not know. It's the one book that I didn't read this week that I want to go back and hit because
it's totally
again, I ran out of time. So I'm supposed to review Deadpool, or excuse me, you are Deadpool #2 in a couple of minutes. Well, now, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't. It's a Deadpool money grab, in this case, online with, create your own Deadpool game /comic/ whatever. Yeah.
It's going to be a choose your own adventure Deadpool comic. And that sounds neat in concept, but it was just kind of slapdash and the quality is not very good.
I'm going to do Despicable Deadpool #300 in a minute, which is 61 pages, all one story.
Oh, Lord.
I'll make it up for it right there.
Okay. Well, in Incredible Hulk 716, it's more of the same that we've been seeing. The Hulk has locked Amadeus Cho in the trunk of the car, and he's in charge of Amadeus Cho's body, and he's wreaking havoc across New York, and he's lost his mind. And from the way it sounds, the Hulk intends to be supreme leader of the universe right here. He's just megalomaniac times 1,000. He's taken out Alpha Flight. He's taken out the Champions. He's taken out some of the Avengers. It's all bad. He's raining destruction on New York. Odinson's trying to stop him. That's not working out for him. In the mindscape of the Hulk, him and Amadeus Cho are fighting it out, and Amadeus Cho's trying to survive so he doesn't become destroyed by the Hulk, and all that's left is the Hulk. There's no Amadeus Cho left. Yeah, it's good. Greg Pak's writing it. Greg Land doing the art. Dude, it's good.
Yeah, and Greg Pak has been doing this book for a long time, and it is good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't say that about Hulk comics because I'm not a big Hulk guy, but I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yes. Next, we have the aforementioned Despicable Deadpool #300. This is written by Jerry Dugan, and I don't know how long Jerry Dugan has been doing Deadpool.
A long time. And this is his farewell, and this is going to be a 3-hour podcast, and this book is one of the reasons why. Because it is 61 pages. Yeah.
And it's all a good story. It opens in nowhere with previously in our last $10 issue, which is a pretty funny. Okay. Because I'm sure this thing was $10 on the stand at 61 pages. We were discussing the price comic books earlier. $10, man.
Yeah. I believe that.
So in that issue, and I had forgotten this happened.
But it is 60 pages.
It's 61 pages, all one story, not filler, not nothing. 61 pages of story. So
yeah, whereas Uncanny X-Men was 32 and almost $9.
Yeah. So, I'm down with it. So Deadpool's hooking up with this alien who gives him this weapon that is supposed to make him invincible. And this was several years ago. So Deadpool puts it on. And here's the thing about Jerry Dugan's writing on Deadpool. It's much like Fabio Nicieza before him. I'm sure I butchered that name. He gets it. Okay. In that the story is very serious and Deadpool trying to commit suicide. At the same time, he manages to use satire to make it work. So here, Deadpool was spraying this stuff all over himself, thinking that he's got some kind of super weapon. He's told all the Avengers where he is, as he's walking out, this lady passes him and throws up all over the place. So he's told the Avengers the hotel he's in. He steps outside, and they all come to attack him. The Falcon is the first one. He's the first member of the strike team. He gets within about 10 feet of Deadpool, and he starts throwing up. And you can guess where this is going. Mm-hmm. What she gave him was a pheromone. That makes them all throw up. So as all the champions, all the Avengers, you've got a scene where Miss Marvel makes her cheeks giant because she's trying to hold in the vomit. All of them do. Every time they try and attack him, they puke. The police dog, the witches, everybody. Iron Man throws up inside his
helmet.
The last resort is giant. Division's there, and Deadpool's like, yes, finally, somebody who can stop me, somebody who can kill me. You're not going to throw up. You can kill me. Do it. Let's get it over with. And then Giant Man shows up and throws up all over both of them, which shorts out Division. It's hilarious. So Deadpool is depressed, and he's heading somewhere in New Jersey. When we cut to Captain America, who resurrected Preston last issue, and she knows where he's going. So Deadpool's hitchhiking, and a Dodge Charger pulls over to pick him up. Turns out it's Jerry Dugan.
Oh, nice.
Driving the Charger. And Jerry's like, Deadpool convinces him that the series is going to end. And he's like, no, it's not, man. I've written and oh my God, I haven't. And all Deadpool wants is his car. So he puts a bullet in Jerry's head and drives away in his car.
Oh man, that's great.
It is great. Then we cut to Captain America and Preston going after him. There's a car chase. There's a shield. He feels real bad about Preston. I'm making this brief because it's 61 pages. Finally, we go to a place. It's called Butler's Medical Supply. And this was a story arc from 2 or 3 years ago where this guy was having Deadpool run assassin missions for him. And then he'd give Deadpool a small dose of this medicine and it would wipe his memories. So Deadpool goes there and hooks up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 IV bags full of the stuff because he wants to erase all of his memories permanently. So when Preston and Captain America get there, Deadpool's just chilling because he's done taking all the drugs. And what you cut to then is, again, it's satire and it's cartoony, but Deadpool is going through his memories, everything that Jerry Dugan has written for the last few years, and is erasing them. So sometimes he's blowing up the memories, sometimes he's shooting them. He's talking about them as he goes. In some of them,
setting the character for the next writer,
right? And it's like the memory of he and his daughter. Deadpool has to kill that too. It's really sad. Finally, he does it all. He erases all of them. And Deadpool is mentally incompetent. He stands trial because he doesn't have a memory. He doesn't have anything. And so he stands trial, and they're like, okay, you're mentally incompetent. They send him to an asylum where he stays for who knows how long. Days, weeks, months, years, who knows. Eventually, another nut job shows up in a Deadpool costume. And about that time, Deadpool wakes up and says, no, I'm Deadpool. And he has a fresh start. So he walks out of the insane asylum. Yeah.
Okay.
The last page is another beginning.
Yeah, it's a last hurrah for all the stuff Jerry Dugan's done over the years, and then a reset for the next writer.
And it was, if you're into Deadpool, it was a great issue. If you're not into Deadpool or you don't get Deadpool or Ryan Reynolds or anything that has come before this, you're not going to get this issue.
Right. And it's probably not a good place to start because it's literally the changing of the guard.
Right.
So, yeah, okay. The reason I saw it was Deadpool 300 and I was like, oh yeah. And then I opened it, it was 63 pages and I was like, no.
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 No, I
have other comic books to read. No.
I started reading it, and it's one of those times when I think, okay, I just read it and go through it. And about halfway through, I'm like, holy cow, how long have I been reading? And then I hit I hit it and the thing comes up and it says it's 63 pages. I'm like, oh my God, no.
But I'm glad it was good. At least
it was very good, man.
At least it wasn't 63 pages of drivel like Spider-Man and Deadpool 32.
Yeah, and this is what Deadpool's supposed to be. And we've discussed this before ad nauseum. The Spider-Man Deadpool thing is a money grab. The You Are Deadpool thing is a money grab. This despicable Deadpool and Jerry Dugan's entire Deadpool run is what he is supposed to be. It's how he's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's what Deadpool should be. Some writers get it, some don't. And I think Marvel has figured that out. So they assign writers to Deadpool who they know will get it.
Yeah.
At least the main Deadpool comic. Maybe not some of these others.
Yeah.
Anyway, Runaways #9 came out. They enlist the help of a Doombot. Molly's having weird feelings about being 13. There's magic cupcakes. I don't care.
Well, as a side, since we're kind of killing time here, I've got Survivor Series on up above me. Let's just call it another monitor. And Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey are fighting as we speak. And I'm pretty sure Charlotte Flair just popped everything out of her top on the network. Maybe she didn't, but it sure looked like she did.
Yeah, for a moment she did.
I'm pretty sure she did for a moment.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Also, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl #32 came out. She has an encounter with Kraven the Hunter again, who she's had encounters with before. It's funny, but again, Squirrel Girl's become one of those comics that it's kind of always the same. It's always good, but it's always just like super goofy. So we don't necessarily, unless it's just an issue that we just got to talk about, we kind of just briefly mention it. But it was good. Yeah, as it always is.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Squirrel Girl is some of these comics go up and down in terms of quality. We're 32 issues into Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and there were more issues before that. And it is just consistent. Issue after issue after issue, it's just consistent at what it is and what it's supposed to be.
And there's so many series that are like that. This Darth Vader series we're going to talk about in a few minutes is that Jerry Dugan's run on Deadpool, Greg Pak's run on Incredible Hulk. They're consistent. Some of these you're right, are up and down.
Yeah. Moving on to Star Wars, we have Thrawn #4. I've really enjoyed this series. Jodie Hauser's writing it. I've actually never heard of Jodie Hauser, but she's doing a great job here. The Empire sends Thrawn and his ensign to planet Cypher to essentially mediate a territory dispute between human colonists and the aliens that live on the planet. What they find out is that the human colonists are engaging in a conspiracy to remove the aliens from their lands so that they can mine the very valuable ore that is underneath it. Thrawn spends time interviewing the humans and also interviewing some of the aliens, comes up with a plan, captures all the conspirators. It lands him a pretty serious promotion to commander. His ensign also gets a promotion to lieutenant commander, or not commander, but let's see. Thrawn gets, is it captain? Yeah, it's captain. Yeah, Thrawn becomes a commodore, which is a rank above captain. If you don't know military rankings, it's hard to keep track. Whereas Ensign Vanto becomes a lieutenant commander. From there's a single page that kind of in a montage way explores all of Thrawn's exploits and adventures in one page and shows him getting another promotion. They don't really say how much time has passed here. I assume it's a few years, 3 to 5 years, something like that. He's essentially, he does a lot of good things for the Empire, tracking down rebels and so forth. and gets promoted to admiral. He finds himself in a meeting of admirals where they're talking about stamping out some rebel cells in a particular sector of space. And this is kind of where we pick up with him in the Star Wars Rebels TV show. This is basically him going out on that mission where he runs into those missions and the stuff we see in Rebels.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is this the last issue?
No, it's not. I think it's 5 or 6 issue miniseries, but yeah, there's a dispute among the admirals about who needs to go where and do what. And Thrawn uses the very particular wording of his ranking officer to instead send his crew to one planet, but he and his ensign are going to another because he knows that this other admiral is going to fail horribly at his mission. So he's going to go make sure the Empire doesn't fail.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
This Darth Vader book is really good. But before we get there, speaking of people paying their dues in wrestling, at some point this became a no DQ match because Charlotte Flair took a kendo stick, actually 3 kendo sticks, and beat the hell out of Ronda Rousey with them. I mean, you're going to see pictures of this online tomorrow because you can see the welts on Rousey's back. You don't fake that. I mean, it doesn't sound right if you fake it. Dude.
Yeah, you just get hit with a kendo stick.
She just beat the crap out of her, man. I mean, hit her like 30 times. So, 2 things about this book. Number 1, if you're going to fight Darth Vader, don't do it underwater wearing a scuba suit. Because if you do, he's going to do that whole clinch fisting thing. Instead of drawing your throat tight, he's going to smash your face mask and you're going to die instantly.
Yeah, you're going to drown.
Yeah, it's not going to end well for you.
With glass in your eyes.
Yes. Secondly, if you kill a character, I don't care about their origin story on the next page. So what happens is Master Bar, the Jedi, has all these apprentices, and every time Darth Vader kills one of them, you get a 1-page story of their origin and how they became a Jedi and Master Bar found them. I hope there's a reason because I'm like, why are you giving me an origin after you kill the characters? That doesn't make sense.
It is important to know how he recruited them for what will be revealed about Master Bar in the coming issues.
Okay, sure. I guess so. So we're laying a foundation for Master Bar and not characters.
It's more like informing you about what Master Bar's been doing, and that gives weight to what he does later.
Okay, cool. So next we have Vader leading his army of the what are these called? I forget.
Oh, the Inquisitors.
The Inquisitors, thank you. And when Grand Moff Tarkin calls him and wants him to go get the king for him, the Mon Cala king, and he knows he can't order Vader, so he asks him nicely and says he would consider it a favor. So Vader's like, okay, I can always use grand animals in my debt. Sure, I'll go do it. And I tell you what, I won't spoil. Should I spoil the ending of this book?
Yeah, we get put a spoiler tag there for a reason.
And if you haven't read it, you've just been warned. So it's the Inquisitors and a bunch of Imperial stormtroopers. And turns out they're recent clones. And apparently the Emperor didn't update the coding because he just tells them to execute Order 61 and 66. No, 66. 66. I'm sorry, 66. And yeah, I guess the stormtroopers are going to kill all the Inquisitors. It was very good.
Because they used to be Jedi.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Charlotte Flair is still beating up Ronda Rousey.
There you go.
Yeah, it was very good, man. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. I enjoyed it too. I've actually read ahead in this series. The next story arc that's coming is super good. I mean, this is good, but it's all about Darth Vader building his castle on Mustafar.
Oh, that's right. You told me about that.
Yeah. And if that sounds boring, well, it ain't. There's a whole nother layer to it that is really cool. Anyway, Briefly wanted to mention the comic book adaptation of The Last Jedi. The first issues here in Marvel Unlimited this week. That was a controversial movie among Star Wars fans. I actually watched it again this last week, and I doubled down on the movie. I actually liked the movie. I like the direction it took the characters in. I like the direction it took the story in. It's not it's not a perfect movie. There's some issues with it for sure. But what this adaptation does is it isn't a page for page retelling of the movie. There are additional scenes here. You get a few scenes where Luke is kind of inner monologuing to himself on Ahch-To after Rey shows up. There's other scenes where Poe and Leia are talking about their plan to evade the First Order. All of that in order to better flesh out and explain the story decisions that were made in the movie. So you understand Luke's thinking a little better, and you understand why all of a sudden he just took himself to this island, exiled himself, and was trying to stamp out the Jedi Order.
Okay, I might go back and read it now.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's 32 pages, but you can also kind of just skim it a little. Because there are parts that are directly taken from the movie, so you can just skim it. But after rewatching the movie last Wednesday and then reading this week, I've doubled down on this was the right direction for Star Wars to go, despite what some of the fans think.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what was your favorite comic book this week, Pat?
It was New Mutants #3.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that book. It was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Despicable Deadpool #300 came in a very close second, but that New Mutants book was really good.
I would probably say New Mutants if I had been able to read it. I'm gonna have to go with Thrawn #4. I really enjoyed the political intrigue that happens in that comic. I like it a lot, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. In the dump this week, we had some Thunderbolts, Elektra, Glimpse, and Echo, which seems to be a limited Elektra series. Mutant X, which I might actually go back and read some because I like the Mutant X stuff and didn't read a lot of it when I was a kid. And we also had What If #16. I always like the What If stuff.
Yeah, I don't know why Marvel is doing a kind of a What If resurrection, but there was a lot of timely What If stuff on the stands recently, and anyway, they are.
Okay, cool. I can dig that. Yep. So that pretty much will finish up this week. If you want to check us out, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com.
And please go check out our other show, What's Next. It's a much shorter podcast where we discuss other things worth reading in Marvel Unlimited. This week, we discussed Marvel events. If you go to the search and browse area, there's a tab listed Marvel events. All of those, it's not comprehensive, but it's a large list of events that have been curated for you to read. If you read, we tell you which ones are worth reading, and if you read a handful of those, you'll be pretty well caught up on all the Marvel lore that's relevant.
Yeah. So you may know What's Next. We don't do a 2-hour podcast and talk about wrestling for half an hour and one book for 30 minutes.
No, we don't.
It's
more like 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. If you want a shorter form, that's the podcast for you. Anyway, we will be back next week with another show. In the meantime, Pat, leave us with a little wisdom, would you?
A lot of Thanksgiving days have been ruined by not carving the turkey in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah. Thanksgiving's this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand what that means, but it reminds me that Thanksgiving's this week.
You've never seen fights where people argue about how to cut the turkey?
No.
Okay. It's a real thing.
Is it really? That's not.
It really is. Yes.
Movies.
It's not just stuff that happens in movies. How to cut the turkey, who's going to cut it, where you cut it, who gets what piece.
Okay. That ain't my family. Thank God.
As you glance out the door.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.